Sisters and brothers, do you recognize the moment? Luke chapter 19, verses 41 through 44. And it says, when the city came into view, he wept over it. If you had only recognized this day and everything that was good for you, but now it's too late. In the days ahead, your enemies are going to bring up their heavy artillery and surround you, pressing in from every side. They'll smash you and your babies on the pavement. Not one stone will be intact. All this because you didn't recognize and welcome God's visitation. I've read to you from the Message Bible. At a very critical time in New Testament history, Jesus points out that too many of his people did not recognize the magnitude of the moment they were in. History tells us that the Jewish Holocaust during the reign of Hitler did not come like a thief in the night, but rather it happened in plain sight. In plain sight, 6 million Jews were murdered between 1933 and 1945, and the whole world watched in quiet amazement as Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party turned anti-Semitism into genocide, all because they did not recognize the sign of the times. Although many of us know the story of the triumphal entry, many do not know the grave similarities it shares with this new age of erasure that we find ourselves in today. Living in this age of anti-everything that opposes white privilege and power, where the rule of the day has been completely turned upside down, we see the same absence of awareness, especially on the part of those who look like you and I, of the tremendous primacy of this moment, this historical moment we are in. Sadly, like the Jews of old, we've had sign after sign that the season of erasure is upon us once again, as anti-blackness is being turned into the new Jim Crow. In plain sight, Trump said he would deport Latin Americans if he was reelected. In plain sight, Trump told us he would hollow out the U.S. government and give his rich white associates the biggest tax breaks and credits they could ever imagine. In plain sight, he appointed a gang squad of underqualified, underachieving nincompoops to replace political experts in every area of government under the guise of getting rid of tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. In plain sight, he told us, he told the world that if he didn't win, there would be trouble because the election would have been stolen again. In plain sight, he told us that America has been raped, pillaged, and plundered by every country on earth. And now, by raining down tariffs on every non-U.S. business in the world, he was going to make America, meaning the 1%, wealthy again. In plain sight, he said his boy toy, Elon Musk, was going to pay for Republican votes. And during the election year of 2024, Elon Musk spent more than $290 million on that election. This entire anti-everything, everything that's non-white campaign is happening in plain sight. But how many of us recognize this moment we are in? Just last month, in plain sight, the House voted to adopt a blueprint for a massive bill to slash Medicaid and SNAP funding by adding burdensome new requirements that would automatically cancel or remove millions from receiving aid, while extending tax cuts primarily benefiting high-income households and corporations. If they're trying to pass bills that limit how a poor black mother can or cannot spend her little money, don't you think they'll come after you and your right to autonomy next? What is the Most High calling us to do in this moment? Jesus wept not because of his prophetic insight, but because he recognized that his people were blind, deaf, and dumb to the primacy of the moment they were in. He wept because he was not certain that even with the handwriting on the temple walls, his people would listen and accept him as a messianic voice for those living in a time of Roman erasure. The issue Jesus recognized as he entered Jerusalem is the same one the Holy Spirit poses before us today. Do you recognize, even within the chaos, this confusion, fear, and despair, the opportunity God offers us? Do you recognize the moment? According to Jewish historian Josephus Flavius, who lived through the first Jewish revolt against Rome, over 2,000 Jews had already been hung on Roman crosses before Jesus was even born. Yet even in plain sight, his people did not comprehend the politics behind the cross. Only a small fraction of those who gathered in the holy city on that day understood the urgency of the moment. It was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for those Jews who had come together from all over Judea to unify, organize, and transform their reality. It was an opportunity to finally put an end to centuries of disempowerment and shame, first by the Greeks and then by the Romans. All they had to do was yield to messianic prophecy. But I'm sure we can understand their passivity, because far too often as a people in times of crisis, we also defer to feelings of defeat, doubt, and disillusion, rather than seeing the gifted moment, the opportunity that God affords us. Although the New Testament Jews were being overtaxed, their lands being stolen, their holy city occupied by Homeland Security, Roman soldiers, even though their leaders had been corrupted and their religion degraded with Greco-Roman cultural perversions, most were clueless that Jerusalem was about to collapse and that the people of Yahweh would soon be scattered to the four corners of the earth. According to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus entered Jerusalem as a small crowd laid palm branches at his feet. For the Jews, palms were a symbol of liberation. They were celebrating a liberation festival known as the Passover, which hailed God's miraculous deliverance from the hands of the Egyptians. They shouted, "Hosanna, Hosanna, blessings on him who comes in the name of the Almighty," as he entered the gates of the holy city. They shouted Hosanna not because they were expecting him to die on a cross, but to signify their own faith and hope that he would be the one to set Israel free. But don't you see, therein lies the problem. They thought he would be the one, meaning they did not see themselves as being a part of the solution to their collective survival. Therefore, they failed to recognize the gravity of the moment. You may recall a few weeks ago, New Jersey Democrat Senator Cory Booker broke the record for the longest filibuster, 25 hours and 5 minutes, in a vain attempt to appeal to the conscience of the little white men who run the Senate, who are totally committed to Trump and Project 2025 and taking America back to her former state of Confederate life. Some say Booker's efforts were brave and made folks feel proud. But the reality is, while it may have been a noble effort to appeal to the evil ones, it will not change one single iota of the anti-poor, anti-black, anti-minority genocidal plan we know of as Project 2025. Does Cory Booker and his associates up on the Hill recognize the moment we are in? Jesus wept as he entered Jerusalem because he realized that too many folks thought they did not have a cross of their own to bear. Must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone. There's a cross for you and me. If you stand on the side of good, if you serve a God of truth, righteousness, and power, then you not only have a cross to bear, but you also have a call to fulfill and a responsibility to accomplish in a moment such as this. Even today, as millions are experiencing tough times, and many, not many, can see the opportunity that God affords us. What are you saying, preacher? I'm saying there are however many folks, many folks who don't look like us, who do see their opportunity to capitalize on the disenfranchisement of the majority of sleeping black folks. They see an opportunity to manipulate the disunity and disorganization of a group that has little defense against the onslaught of local, state, national, and international wolves, feeding on our people because we have broken, scattered, and shattered spirits. Too many are busy wallowing in self-negating attitudes or whining and complaining, fixated on all the lacks in their lives, or living a fantasy from the latest episode of Harlem or Who Got Next or Reasonable Doubt. Too distracted to recognize the moment, that this moment we are in is a gift. How much do we have to take before we decide that this is our opportunity to take a stand? Are we waiting for Dr. King to resurrect a new dream for black people? Are we waiting for Fannie Lou Hamer to come back and tell us that enough is enough and that we ought to be sick and tired of being sick and tired? What will it take to wake up a sleeping people to their opportunity? Like the people of the New Testament during the Passover celebration, we are naive to the reality that no one is coming to save us, and that we are the messianic agent for whom we await. I'm trying to tell somebody that every crisis life brings your way is yet another opportunity to tap into your resilience, tap into your tenacity, tap into your buoyancy, and to discover the depth of your own faith and spirit. What must we do, preacher? What did Brother Moses do when there came a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph? He stood up for his people. Justice will never be attainable until enough people are willing to stand up for it. History demonstrates that racism, discrimination, prejudice, and self-hatred will continue to endure in America in plain sight until enough people are willing to take a stand and say too much is too much. The reason Jesus wept as he entered the holy city is because he was appalled at the apathy and indifference his people displayed in their gifted moment, when they could have very easily banded together, far outnumbering their Roman enemies, to reclaim their holy temple and dispel the Roman authorities and to take back their city from foreign rule. It's not hard to understand why Jesus wept. When you look at the onslaught of neo-Roman or Nazi forces preying upon this country today, it's more than enough to make you weep. But it's also more than enough to wake you up to the awareness that if we do not stand collectively against the dismantling of our city, government, resources, neighborhoods, schools, then we are dooming our children's children to a permanent state of impoverishment. The reality is, we cannot have any effective influence on city, state, or government agencies, policies, or resources unless we are willing to stand together for common good as a group. This moment is our opportunity to either stand up for justice or to lay down for yet another attempt at genocide against our people. I want somebody to recognize on this Liberation Sunday that the consequences of this moment are critical. Divine law says everything happens for a reason. Everything is connected. Everything happens in a season. What are you saying, preacher? While it may appear on the surface that things are hopeless or in a state of decay and decline, if you look right below the surface, there is an opportunity for those roots that have already been planted to spark new growth and to raise up a new fruit-bearing tree. What do you mean, preacher? I'm trying to tell you, there's a whole generation of frustrated, lost, lonely, angry, confused, and potential-filled young black people across the world who are looking for answers, who are looking for a leg up and a way out of the darkness. Who is going to respond to their cries for help? Jesus wept over Jerusalem because enough is enough. And even though he had some good news, his people were not able to recognize the gift hidden inside the moment that they were in. Brothers and sisters, do you recognize the moment we are in? This is the moment to trust in the Lord and to be of good courage. This is the moment to put aside petty differences and come together as one. This is the moment to be intentional about who we spend our money with and what we spend our money on. This is the moment to be connected to a group that shares your best interests and who don't just talk, but actually practice collective work and responsibility. This is the moment to break our dependency on a broken enemy system, which only serves to exploit, exclude, and eliminate us by developing, building, and creating for ourselves. Any people that don't own anything is a people who are dependent on others. If there ever was a moment in our collective lives, this is the moment for a strategic plan in black investment, black entrepreneurial engagement, black ownership, and black political and economic control of our own communities. For those with ears to hear and eyes to see, this moment we are in is a gifted moment from the Most High. This is our opportunity to unify the melanated people of the African diaspora who are seeking to create a better place, a better future for themselves and their children. We ought to be taking advantage of this moment, this opportunity God affords us to stir up our people and to offer them an alternative to the same old fallout of injustice against the poor and disenfranchised. Sisters and brothers, let's not waste this moment. Let's not waste this moment to wake up a sleeping people and help them become who God intended them to be. Let's not waste this opportunity to help our brothers and sisters to envision something greater for themselves and for their community. Let's not waste this opportunity to touch, to heal, and to transform some lives. Let's not waste this opportunity to offer those who are seeking a way out of the darkness an illuminated path of self-discovery and self-determination that will ultimately lead them towards dignity, righteousness, and power. Palm Sunday is about the liberation of God's people. Will you recognize this moment and stand up for your own liberation? Ashe and amen.